Hi guys, welcome to Small Farmer Life. Hope you're all having an awesome day. It's Friday again, weekend's coming. Let's see if I have any more trouble with the neighbour who's a bit of a prick. Anyway guys, today I want to talk about planning consultants and do you need a planning consultant? Now, the majority of you who've bought land or you're looking to buy some land or maybe in the process of buying some land, it'll probably be the first time you've purchased some land and probably the first time you've put a planning application in. You might put one in, let's say, for an extension on a house or something like that. But when it comes to bare agricultural land, planning applications are a little bit different. And well, some of you might not know how to go about it, so you'll probably want to seek the advice of a planning consultant. Now, I advise against it because if you think about a planning application, it's not as hard as you might think it might be. It's pretty simple if you know what you're doing, if you've read the National Planning Policy Framework. I know it's a little bit hard to understand, but once you understand which parts of the National Planning Policy Framework should be put in your planning statement, and if you do fill out a planning application the right way with a planning statement and you cite all National Planning Policy Framework and guidelines that should support the reason why you're building the stable block or the barn or why you want to start the farm and you need these buildings on the piece of agricultural land in question, and then you put in the right drawings to scale so they have no reason to refuse the planning application, you'll get the planning pass. There's parts in the National Planning Policy Framework that states councils and planning departments should support stables being built in the countryside, and the same goes for barns and starting farms. Now, councils should also encourage rural businesses in the countryside. Doesn't matter where it is, in green belt, greenfield. Greenfield is just agricultural land. Now, if you get so many objections, normally between about 5 and 10, then you'll go to a committee meeting. Now, yes, going to committee meetings can be daunting for the majority of people, but if you're like me, you're a gobshite, well, I'm not bothered about speaking in front of anybody. Now, when you do go to these meetings, you get 3 minutes to talk. The opposition, they'll get 3 minutes to talk, and then the planning officer and all the councillors who are at the meeting on the committee, and you've got to remember that these people, these councillors who are on the committee itself, are not paid councillors. They're just people who are councillors for their local areas and they're just nominated or voted in, and the only thing they get is reimbursed for expenses when they're doing things that involves like going to planning committees and that sort of thing. And if one of the people who was supposed to be on the planning committee, a councillor, isn't there, they can nominate somebody else to take their place and they'll make the decision. Now, I'll tell you the story that I watched on a program that was called Planners, and this one story stuck out in particular, and it was a woman and she hired a planning consultant. Now, all this woman wanted was a drop curb in a street of about, 20 houses, and every single house had a drop curb bar hers. There were around about 1920 homes, and that means the drop curbs probably came in around about 20 years and above, because cars weren't a normal thing back 30, 40 years ago. So these drop curbs must have been put in the last 20 years when family cars and two-car families and that sort of thing became more prevalent around the UK. So this woman had to reverse down a back alley. She had to do about a 7-point turn to get into a back garden so she could secure the car. If she had a drop curb, then she'd be able to put cameras up and she'd be able to park the car on the front of the house and it'd be nice and secure. Well, it went to a committee, and there was one woman who they interviewed who was a councillor. And like I say, these are not paid councillors, so the job isn't a councillor. They're normally like school teachers, headmasters, those sorts of people with a little bit of standing in the community. Now, when the committee come out and visit the site, and they'll come out and visit the site in a bus, you're not allowed to talk to them, you're not allowed to make them a cup of tea, you're not allowed to do anything like that. And when they look around, they'll make up their mind whether or not the application should be passed. Now, when they were speaking to the councillors on camera, not the lady who wanted it up curb, but the people who are making the actual documentary about the planners. And well, they spoke to the majority of them, and they said there's no reason why they shouldn't have a drop curb, because everyone else has got a drop curb, so, well, why shouldn't this lady? Now, the one woman they spoke to was an older woman, and she said they've got to get past me first. Now, I couldn't believe she actually said this on camera. And when it came to the committee, and if these people have got sway over the other councillors, when it comes to the vote, and they ask who votes in favour of the planning application and who votes against the planning application, now, they do have a debate on if the planning application should be passed, and if it shouldn't be passed, the people who are against the planning application, well, they get the chance to speak also. And it doesn't matter if people don't want the planning application to go through, or people do want the planning application to go through. Now, the planning officer who's dealing with the case, they'll have their say, and they'll recommend if it should be passed or it shouldn't be passed. In this case, she recommended that it should be passed. This old lady who got the other members to vote no against this planning application. Now, you've got to understand, this woman spent £15,000 on a planning consultant who couldn't even get her a dropped curb. Now, you might think, well, if I employ a planning consultant, they know everything to do about planning and the planning process. Now, most planning officers go into being planning consultants. So let's say there was a planning officer in my town and they moved up in the planning department. When they get really good, they'll probably go off and be a planning consultant, and then they can charge big bucks. Now, the guy who came to my site wanted £5,000 for one planning application, one planning statement, and if it went to committee, to attend one committee and also do the drawings for my site. £5,000, and this was for a house on a bare piece of agricultural land. There wasn't a cat and hill's chance I would get planning permission on a bare piece of agricultural land for a house. And he said, I've got a 50-50 shot. And that's what most of them will say. You've got a 70% shot, you've got a 90% shot, or you've got a really good chance of getting it. They're like solicitors. They want to bleed you dry. They're not going to say you haven't got a cat and hill's chance of getting it, because how would they make money? That's their business, is getting your business from you so they can bank. And if it doesn't go through the first time, then they'll just say, we'll appeal it. Or if they have to make any other changes to the planning application, they make more money doing that sort of thing. And this is what you need to understand when it comes to planning consultants. That planning consultant I was just talking about couldn't even get a drop curb. And the old woman got the planning application rejected on the grounds that it would ruin the characteristics of that street. Now, every single house had a drop curb. One house didn't have a drop curb. Why would that ruin the characteristics of the area? So it just goes to show that one person in a planning committee, and in this case, not even a paid councillor, just a member of the community who's become a councillor and attends planning committee meetings, scuppered the chances of this lady getting a drop curb so she could park the car on the front of the house. And the planning consultant was like, don't worry, we'll go to appeal. He already has £15,000. £15,000. And that isn't to build a drop curb or anything like that. Now, £15,000 goes in that guy's pocket for speaking for 3 minutes at committee meetings, doing a few planning applications, writing out a planning statement and that sort of thing. Now, if you have read the National Planning Policy Framework, and I know it's hard to understand, but you've got to read also the local planning policy guidelines. Those will help you. And if you know how to do your drawings and you can do them to scale, you know how to write a good planning statement and fill out a planning application without ticking the wrong boxes so it gets rejected. If you can do all that, there's no need to hire a planning consultant. Now, if you do need help filling in a planning application or writing a planning statement, doing a location map to go with your planning application, where you need to put the buildings and that sort of thing, if you need that sort of help, yes, I'm willing to help. But obviously, my time costs money, like everything else. And I'm struggling to make an income. I do these videos to help people. I don't do them to make money. And I'll never be able to make money from this channel. I'm never going to get 50,000, 100,000 subscribers. And even if I did, it still wouldn't provide a full-time income. But I make these videos because I want to see other people get the right to live on their land. Why shouldn't they? Now, I'm not saying people should be able to develop their land and sell it and make lots of money, millions in some cases. What I want to say is people should be allowed to start a small holding, live an healthy lifestyle in the countryside, and it shouldn't just be reserved for the rich and famous. You should be allowed to do it just as much as they're allowed to do it, no matter if it's in greenbelt, greenfield, which is literally agricultural land, or brownfield, whatever site it might be. You should be allowed to do what you want to do just as much as the rich are. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, you can't get the grasp. We're putting a planning application in. You need a good planning statement written. You need a good business plan to go with the planning application, the planning statement, to make sure that you do get the stable block, you do get the barn, and you do get any other buildings that you need on site. Well, I'm here to help, and I will charge a fee, obviously, filling out planning applications and planning statements and all that sort of thing, and doing all the research that goes along with it. But there's lots of businesses out there, guys, that you can get the right to live on land. It's a functional need, and if you can prove that functional need to be there, well, they can't refuse you living on site. Now, the majority of times, they will make you live in a caravan for 3 to 5 years to show that you can make a profit, and there's a lot of businesses that you can make a profit within 3 years, simply and easily. Now, if you've got any comments or questions, guys, make sure you leave them in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer them. Don't be sending me any messages through Facebook Messenger. I don't have the time to reply. And well, the people who watch the channel don't get to see him. The only people that get to see him is you guys. Anyway, guys, if you like the video, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, and you should subscribe, hit that subscribe button. If you want to be notified of all upcoming videos, make sure you hit the bell button. As always, guys, thanks again to all my patrons. I couldn't thank you guys enough. If you'd like to support the channel, links in the description below. You can do so for less than the price of a cup of coffee. My name's Craig. You've been watching A Small Farmer Live. Make sure you take care of yourself. Most of all, take care of the family. Be genuine. Bye for now. See you.